So the Buffalo Bills training camp has wrapped up. Preseason week 1 is over with, and I'm sure a lot of us are wondering, how have the Buffalo Bills rookie class been doing? We've seen highlights from Keon Coleman, of course. We understand the Cole Bishop injury, but what about some of these late round picks? Have they been showing any flashes? Are they going to make this team? On today's episode, I'm going to be going through each and every single one of the Buffalo Bills draft picks in 2024 and giving you a report based off of what I have read, based off of what I have seen. And spoiler alert, I promise you are going to be ecstatic about it. Now, right before we dive into that, I have to give a giant shout out to today's sponsor, and that just so happens to be Picasso's Pizza. Folks, Picasso's Pizza is Buffalo Pizza. 4 great locations in the Western New York area. And if you are not in Western New York, have no fear because they are delivering nationwide. And as long as you utilize code PARADE, like the parade the Buffalo Bills are about to be conducting in February, then you get 20% off of all online orders. And it's always a go-to stop when I am in Western New York to grab a slice of that absolute deliciousness. So go on ahead, show Picasso's Pizza some love, and if you show up to any of those 4 locations, make sure you let them know that I sent you. By the way, guys, make sure you like this video, subscribe, and turn on bell notifications. I post NFL and Buffalo Bills content each and every single day across all social media platforms. Starting off with Keon Coleman. Folks, a lot of us were skeptical of what we were going to see out of Keon. A lot of this fake news coming out that he can't create separation, that he's slow. He ran up 4.640. Everybody was, their undies were in a bunch, if you will, but everyone ignored the fact that he was the fastest wide receiver in the gauntlet drill, and he wins vertically with his hands, something the Buffalo Bills truly needed, a 50-50 ball kind of guy. Now, if you've been paying attention to training camp specifically, that was on full display. Highlight catch after highlight catch after highlight catch, specifically in those 50-50 ball situations. In college, Jordan Travis mentioned that he was a quarterback's best friend because, say, the ball placement wasn't necessarily ideal, Keon Coleman typically ended up bailing Jordan Travis out in college, and we've seen it. In training camp, it was absolutely exciting. I felt like every single day of training camp, we saw a Keon Coleman highlight. Now, specifically in the preseason game, there was 3 instances where he ended up being targeted, 2 of which were in the red zone. Mitchell Trubisky was the quarterback right there. Some solid, tight coverage. There was one specific play where I thought could have been a pass interference, perhaps even a defensive hold. Didn't end up hauling in the touchdown, but specifically on a stop route in his first target, ended up completely creating massive real estate of separation, so suck it, haters, and ended up really showing that this guy is going to develop into a wonderful option for Josh Allen. Now, for anybody that's hoping that he is going to propel his way to being the #1 target for the Buffalo Bills, over a 1,000-yard receiver, still not entirely convinced of that, at least year 1. I would be happy with 750 yards, a couple of touchdowns, and more importantly, just being that third and gotta have it sort of wide receiver. I'm really going to be paying close attention during the Buffalo Bills and the Pittsburgh Steelers preseason game this upcoming Saturday night, watching him like a hawk. And by the way, I am giving my live play-by-play reaction to that game, so make sure you tune into that, subscribe, and turn on those bell notifications so you don't miss out. Oh, second-round pick Cole Bishop, man, and I know that all of us were punching air the second that we heard that he ended up fracturing a bone in his shoulder. For the first couple of practices where he was active, he was an absolute force out there. I mean, his experience that came out of Utah, being a true menace when it came into the backfield specifically, we saw a lot of highlights from this guy. Now, according to all of our doctors and then also the Buffalo Bills organization, it's looking like dude's going to be out 4 to 6 weeks. And we know historically, when it comes into Sean McDermott, and typically this defensive coaching staff, they don't like throwing the rookies out into the wolves per se. So this injury itself really sucks because based off of history, I honestly don't see Cole Bishop getting any meaningful snaps in game time until bare minimum in November. Now let's just hope that our safety tandem can absolutely excel. Still have Taylor Rapp. Sounds like Damar Hamlin is actually going to win the free safety position where it stands right now. And at the end of the day, that's okay, because I think Cole Bishop is more of a strong safety opposed to a free safety. So hopefully we'll be able to see some flashes this season. However, I don't really see him being a meaningful contributor in 2024 based off of everything that has happened thus far. But shout out Cole Bishop. I think the future is right. Heal up quick. Next up, DeWayne Carter. And let me tell you what, during the preseason game this past weekend, he dominated in overall snap count. He was the one defensive player that had the most snaps, and he looked like he had been on this team for the past 4 to 5 years. He was always highly touted as a professional coming out of Duke, very stout defensive tackle, and flashes were all over the place. I think that it's going to be deadly, especially when it comes into our overall defensive line rotation. Him and Ed Oliver switching out. God forbid Ed Oliver goes down with an injury. Knock on wood. We saw Ed Oliver go out with what appeared to be some sort of knee aggravation. He appears to be okay, but the fact that DeWayne Carter is right behind him on the depth chart should be encouraging. Everything that he was known for at Duke, he was showing during this first preseason game. I want to see what he can do during first team reps, so I'm 1,000% going to be paying close attention to him as well. Next up, we have Ray Davis, the damn running back. Now, folks, this is a bit of a mixed bag, but I will say that he did redeem himself during the preseason game right against the Chicago Bears. At the beginning of practice, we heard of a couple of fumbles from this guy, but in the preseason, man, he demonstrated quite a few things. He is wildly versatile when it comes into the pass-catching game. We all love James Cook. We love what he was able to do for us last year, but let's be honest with ourselves. James Cook ended up dropping quite a few passes that were during integral parts of the game. Ray Davis seems to be so far in camp ahead of James Cook in that overall category. Ended up catching a beautiful sideline pass from Mitch Trubisky in that preseason matchup. And then also, we said during his scouting report that he was going to be that hard-nosed runner. He's not going to be that guy that's afraid of contact. He played for several different colleges, and his tape was always, he is a run-in-your-face, north-south kind of guy. He's not afraid to get hit, and you better be hitting the weight room, because if not, you're going to be ran over. One specific highlight, man, had contact, still at about 3 yards after that contact happened. I'm going to go out and say that don't be surprised if Ray Davis is the replacement to James Cook here in a couple of years. We all know how the NFL is with running backs. Very difficult to get paid in this day and age, but Ray Davis is about to be a massive contributor to this team day one, and I can't wait to see his further development while the regular season starts cooking up. 5th overall pick, Sedrick Van Pran, Granger. And folks, start celebrating, because he was one of the highest graded players on the Buffalo Bills during that entire preseason matchup. Now, a lot of us are concerned about the center position. You have Connor McGovern, who has moved from left guard over to center, and we've seen Connor McGovern struggle with the overall snap distribution. He fumbled quite a bit in training camp. And even during the preseason game, there were a couple of snaps that I felt weren't necessarily on the money, and that's something that we should have expected from the first place. Connor McGovern played center in college, but he has only had 100 snaps at the center position in the NFL by itself. So obviously there's going to be some growing pains in that arena. Particularly, I would love for him to move back to left guard so he can be paired up with Dion Dawkins again. That's going to elevate and bring our run game back to where it was in 2023. And give our boy Sedrick Van Pran Granger an opportunity at starting at center. And I know a lot of us here are saying, oh, Dan, he's a rookie, man. Why would the Bills do that? That's way too risky. Hear me out. Sedrick Van Pran Granger was the starting center at the University of Georgia when they won 2 back-to-back national champions. He never let up a sack, a hit, a hurry. He was wildly productive in college. And even if you didn't want to take that as a reason why we should give him that opportunity, look at what he was able to do with these third stringers. This guy had an absolutely incredible pass protection grade. His run protection grade was through the roof. You watch the tape, he was absolutely bullying these defensive tackles, stopping them directly in their tracks. Now, I understand he was going up against third stringers at this point. All I'm saying right now is, based off of what I have seen, I think Sedrick Van Pran Granger at the very least, deserves to have a couple of first and second team snaps. Run with the ones, run with the twos. He's only been with the fours. He's 1,000% over Will Clapp. And then I also want to say that I think he has earned his spot thus far as being the center number 2. I think that he should be directly behind Connor McGovern. I'm still on that train where I want to see him be the starter because I think it's the best thing for our offensive line, but I will take what I can get. Now, let's take these expectations and put them there. Cromer is typically very loyal to some of the vets that have been on this team, so I still think McGovern is going to take over that center job, and we're just going to have to go through the growing pains of David Edwards and the Dion Dawkins collaboration, but Sedrick Van Pran, nothing would make me happier if this guy can be our starting center this damn year. Now, next up, we have Ulofoshio. Definitely a special teams linebacker that was in the mix. He did end up suffering an injury during training camp. He sat out quite a bit. From what I understand, he is progressing nicely. I almost want to say that he is back as a full participant. I could be wrong. Certainly let me know in the comments section. But so far, it's going to be interesting because we did draft this guy, but then you have to enter in the young man from Western New York in Andreessen, who has been absolutely wowing people during his opportunities in the preseason. I think Ulofoshio might actually have an opportunity of being cut on this roster based off of this young man from Western New York, Andreessen, and how he has been performing. So we will see. I'm sure he would be practice squad if he was released from the 53, but that's certainly where I stand. Next up, Javon Solomon. Guys, you know that he was my draft crush in the later rounds. I wanted this defensive end on this squad. Out of Troy, led college football in all of sacks. And while we didn't end up seeing any sacks from the preseason game, let me tell you how effective this man was in setting the edge and making incredible plays in stopping the run. Now, with so many question marks, right? Vaughn Miller, you know, he's starting to tease us. Based off of what we've seen from Vaughn in training camp, we think, oh my God, he's back, man. He's good. Javon Solomon is a perfect insurance policy. And not only, it's going to be very difficult for a lot of these professional tackles to adjust to lining up against a defensive end like Gregory Rousseau, who is a mountain of a man, and then you end up replacing him on certain snaps with Javon Solomon, who is a bit smaller, but also faster and compact. This guy is locking down a roster spot, and I can't wait to see him. I see him getting some pretty significant snaps this season, and as long as he can stop that damn run, setting the edges, this run defense is about to completely improve twofold. Of course, if everybody does stay healthy. So now, next up, we had Tylan Grable, the right tackle out of UCF. In my opinion, I think that he is going to make this roster. He has certainly shown flashes. He left practice yesterday with a supposed injury, so we're going to have to keep a careful watch on this. But he's certainly been impressing the coaches. His journey to the NFL is certainly an intriguing story. I highly suggest you look it up. However, with all of our tackle depth, with which I said during the offseason was a sleeper need for this team, what he has been showing in camp, he's already running with the twos on the regular basis. He's been showing flashes in that first preseason game. I have a feeling that he's almost a lock on this roster because, quite frankly, I'm still concerned about our tackle depth, but so far this is great. Now let's just hope that Spencer Brown can stay healthy, but he is quality depth right behind Spencer Brown. Next up is Daequan Hardy. I still have him as my favorite to win the kick return and also the punt return battle, if you will, especially after KJ Hamler ended up laying an egg during his opportunities during the first preseason game. But don't sleep on this man's ability to play the slot corner position. He was an absolute dog out of Penn State. All of his opportunities, he has been making plays. He is not only a candidate for the kick return and punt return position, but listen, I feel fantastic from what I've been seeing from this young man. If, God forbid, that Taron Johnson, knock on wood, ends up having to miss a little bit of time, the Buffalo Bills so far, and this is obviously an early expectation, have sincerely been stepping up their game, and I absolutely love it. Last but not least, offensive lineman Travis Clayton. As of right now, he is currently out of Bills practice with a shoulder injury. Really not a lot to discuss from this guy. In my opinion, I think that this offensive line spot on the 53-man roster is going to be pretty competitive. As of right now, I have him as a practice squad guy. But who knows? I mean, there is still quite a bit of practice left as the Buffalo Bills enter the Pittsburgh Steelers joint practice season, next preseason game, and onward. But as of right now, I have Travis Clayton being a practice squad contributor. So, folks, that's going to have to do it. In fact, do me a favor and sound off in the comments and let me know about some of these undrafted free agents that you think could potentially make the squad. I think everyone's favorite is 1,000% Andreessen. Like I said, I could see him stealing the spot away from Ulofoshio based off of his performance so far. However, always intrigued to hear what you have to say about these rookies. It's great. Football is back. The vibes are immaculate. Do me a favor, smash that like button for me. It's the easiest way to show some support at what I am doing over here on this channel. Subscribe to the channel and turn on bell notifications so you never miss an episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. And before I let you go, you better always remember, let's go Buffalo.